Hi, I'm Giovanni with the Summit Technology Group, and we're talking disaster recovery planning for banks and credit unions. With me today is Michael McGovern. For the past year, Michael has been the head of the virtual CIO practice at Summit Technology Group. He has 20 years of experience as a banking CIO, CTO, and information security officer. He now helps community banks and credit unions across the United States tackle their most difficult IT operations and data security challenges. Morning, Michael. Happy to have you with us.
Good morning, Gio. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. Really looking forward to the conversation around disaster recovery.
As am I. So let's get into disaster recovery planning for banks and credit unions. We have a very IT dependent world today, especially in banking. Ransomware and cyber attacks seem to be, within the news daily. In your experience, what is the top DR or disaster recovery misconception for banking today?
Yeah, I think the number one misconception, at least based on my 20 years of experience, is that IT actually owns disaster recovery and business continuity. IT does play a really important role in that because they're responsible for assisting in recovering and of all your systems, but it really is an enterprise-wide responsibility, and it just doesn't take into consideration technology. It takes into consideration people and process. So it's much more than information technology and the IT people bringing up systems.
Mhm, mhm. So if, as a CIO in your experience and CTO and information security officer, how would you recommend going about building a disaster recovery plan? Where would you recommend starting? What would be your focus? Who would you involve? What suggestions can you provide?
Yeah, sure. I think first and foremost, it starts at the top, right? So you really need to get buy-in from the senior management team as well as your board of directors. I think you need that type of backing in order to have a successful DR plan. And truthfully, plans need to be a priority, right? It needs to always be top of mind. And I think, at least in my opinion, having organizations add this to part of an individual's annual performance review is really important. In my 20 years of experience, I've always seen disaster recovery being a fire drill, right? You schedule a enterprise-wide DR test, and then weeks before that, now you're reaching out to the business lines to start doing things like building out and making sure their day in the life scripts are current because they use that scripting for testing. Back in the day, you used to actually have what was called emergency boxes, right? You had things like paper forms and pencils and rulers and typewriters and things of that sort. And we used to store that at our co-location. But those are the kind of things that I think should be always thought of and always be top of mind. And it really should be each manager's responsibility to make sure each one of their employees understands the disaster recovery plan, what their role is in that particular disaster recovery plan. Because at the end of the day, if you ever have to declare a disaster, you don't want to have to think. You want to be able to just be able to recover in a timely manner and actually be able to keep the business afloat. So those are things that are really important. I also think making disaster recovery fun, right?
Hmm.
Is something that's really important. There are a lot of different ways of going about doing that. There are disaster recovery games. A lot of organizations have table talk exercises. I think you need to have those enterprise wide as well as within your departments. And if you don't want to go out and buy a tool to do that disaster recovery testing, I should say gamify it. The CISA actually has on their website some examples of table talk tests that you can actually use within your organization. And I know I used one of many different acronyms. CISA actually stands for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So you can look them up on the internet and actually go to their website to be able to look at their tabletop exercises.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing that I think is important for you to do is you don't want to have technology drive your disaster recovery and business continuity plan. you want to do what's called a business impact analysis. And what that is really taking a look and evaluating all the potential risks that might happen within your organization. You just brought one up a few minutes ago, ransomware, right? But there are other types of risks that you need to take into consideration. Being up here on the East Coast, we have hurricanes, we have nor'easters. So you have to take and look at every type of the potential risk that are out there, risk rate them, and make sure that you have a disaster recovery plan in order to protect you from those risks. Um, and lastly, I would recommend if you don't have a technology in place today to do this, use a simple Excel spreadsheet to do your business impact analysis. But there are technologies out there that incorporate people, process, and technology. And there are cloud-based platforms that allow you to build out that within your organization. And then once you do build out your business impact analysis, then you can look to see if the technologies that you have in place can actually meet your risk appetite. So a few other acronyms I want to throw out there: RTO, recovery time objective. That's when an organization looks at the amount of time it's going to take for them to be able to recover from a particular type of risk or disaster. There are things called RPOs, recovery point objectives, right? And what a recovery point objective is allowing you to figure out how much data you can lose in order to not impact the business. Maximum allowable downtime, or MAD, is also a metric that you should take a look at, and it is the amount of time for mission business processes that can be disrupted without causing significant harm to the organization. So that's really important to do as well. But most importantly, you need to test, test, test. I worked for a credit union not too long ago that they only did one enterprise test a year. And we ended up going from one enterprise test a year to over 100, which included mini disasters and major disasters, right? And so a mini disaster is, and those happen much more than major disasters, thankfully, is when you lose an application or you lose a vendor network, and being able to understand the impact that those have on the business and how you need to recover from those particular mini disasters. So we did a lot of different types of testing over the years. We did surprise testing, we did schedule testing, uh, and also most importantly is making sure that many people within your departments understand your department's disaster recovery plan. Because at the end of the day, if you only have one or two people that understand that plan, and those people are not available during the disaster, you're going to have a hard time being able to do your day-to-day business activities. So it's important. I did this a lot in the 20 years of working in information technology. Every one of my IT personnel understood the DR plan, and they were all involved in the disaster recovery testing, may it be the enterprise test or all the mini disasters tests that we did throughout the year.
It's like muscle memory, right? The
Yeah,
more you test, right? So can
yeah,
you share a little bit more about that? Like, what does a dry run look like? You mentioned you went from one in a year to 100 in a year.
yep.
How often do you recommend is like the baseline that a test should be done, and shed some light on that?
Yeah, good question there. It really depends on the organization and the organization's understanding of how much time and energy it takes to do all these different tests, right? So that's really where we start talking again about having that buy-in from senior management and having that buy-in from the board of directors to make sure that each department has the time to do those tests. So there's no silver bullet there, to be honest with you, Gio. But I think at least from the IT perspective, having the ability or at least knowing that everybody on my team understood how to run certain tests and felt comfortable running those tests, it was more important for me to have that done. So not only doing the testing, Geo, but also doing the cross training on the day-to-day basis, right? Because there are so many IT operational technologies that are in place today. Not everybody has the opportunity to use them on a day-to-day basis. But what we ended up doing a lot was cross-training people, and having those people do the day in the life scripts and some of these DR tests that we're doing, so they could feel comfortable using the technology and recovering from the technology.
Hmm. Well, thanks for shedding light on that. Last question I have for you, Michael. In your opinion, having a disaster recovery plan and a business continuity plan, is that, would you consider that just like an insurance policy?
I do, but just like a security insurance policy, you want to be able to have that, right? In the event that you have a cybersecurity event, and DR is the same way, right? You hope you never have to use it, but in the event that you do, you want to be able to be prepared and you want to be able to execute so that you can keep that particular organization that you're working for up and running and operational, at least being able to recover from that. And I have a great story around that. We used a third party organization that did a lot for us from a disaster recovery business continuity perspective. We actually used them for our co-location environment. So they provided us power, cooling, and security along with footprint so that we could put some of our own on-prem equipment on site there. That's when on-prem was cost effective, right? And so that was one of the services that they provided us. They provided us seating, so in the event that we lost our operations center or other major locations that we had, we could actually take people from those locations and move them to this particular co-location, which shared seating that provided us seats, computers, and phone systems. They also allowed us to do quick ships. So in the event that we needed to declare a disaster, we were able to actually quick ship laptops, computers, and phones to certain locations in the event that we needed to do that. And we actually enacted that particular service when COVID hit.
Hmm.
Because where I worked, it literally did not. We didn't really have a remote or teleworker program. I mean, some people had laptops, but other people's did not. So we enacted that plan. We ended up having laptops shipped to our main facility. We then ended up having those laptops retrofitted at that point in time with our desktop image, trained people how to use VPN technology, and sent them home. So we were able to go from a work in the office organization to a work at home organization in a 3 week period. So that was a piece of the overall plan that we had with this particular organization, but we needed to enact it and use it. And then lastly, they actually provided us mobile trailers. So those mobile trailers could actually be retrofitted into a retail branch. So if we lost a retail branch, we would be able to actually drop ship one of these particular trailers, have it retrofitted to being a retail branch within a 24 to 48-hour period.
Hmm.
So one day I wanted to actually bring the board of directors and the senior management team to this particular location because I wanted to show them what that money was being spent for.
Mhm.
And so we actually ended up having the meeting scheduled with some of the senior management team of the third party that we were using, along with the senior management team at the credit union and the board of directors. And we were all sitting in this mobile trailer, and one of the board members needed to use the facility. So I ended up escorting the board member over to the building where the facilities were located. And as we were walking over there, he literally said to me, "Geez, this is a really nice complex. I really like the idea of all the different products and services that this particular organization was providing us, but it's really expensive. I mean, this is just like having an insurance policy." And I sat there and I said to him, "Yeah, you're right, but but if you have to enact it, at least we have a plan in place and we can actually execute on that plan." So I ended up taking him to facilities. We came back. We're sitting in front of the senior management team and the board, and I actually started off the presentation by saying, "Hey, we had a whole game plan here today, guys, but we've actually had to change that game plan because of the fact that there is a organization that is a global contact center that just declared its second disaster in 6 weeks, and that particular global contact center is actually moving here to the third-party location and setting up shop. Now, this particular organization, since they're a global contact center, telecommunications is really important to them. And lo and behold, whatever they were doing in that particular location where their contact center was housed, they actually had telecommunication issues 2 times in 6 weeks. So yes, it is a insurance policy. Yes, it sometimes is looked at as being an expensive one. But if this particular global contact center didn't have a solution, they would have gone under. All right, they would no longer exist today. So I think it's really important for boards to understand that DR is really important. Yes, it's going to cost us some dollars to do it, but in the long run, if we ever have to use it, we have a plan in place, and we know we can execute that. The other thing too is I want to make a recommendation to everybody that's listening to this. There are government programs out there today that you should be aware of. One is called CEAS, and that actually stands for Corporate Emergency Access System.
What are the
Uh,
letters again?
CEAS.
Thank you.
And what that does is allow you to declare certain people within your organization mission critical. So in the event that you have a disaster at one of your facilities, in the event that there is a nor'easter that is happening and you need somebody to get into a facility to do something really important for the bank or the credit union, you can actually, what's given to that particular individual is what's called a CEAS card. And it actually has the individual's name, who they work for, and that they can actually be on the road and or be at a location. And again, at the end of the day, even though you have that particular card, it's really up to the emergency response people, may it be police or fire, that will either allow you to go into a facility or not, right? It becomes a liability, but it also gives you the ability to have some of your key personnel go into certain locations in the event that you need to get important documents or whatever they might need to do within the organization at that point in time. There's also a couple others. One is called WPS. That is actually a service that allows you to register your corporate mobile devices and having higher priorities, so that in the event that if there's a telecommunication issue and the phone lines are jammed, it actually, if your particular phone is registered with WPS, it actually allows you to have higher priority than somebody that is not registered with WPS. There's another one called GETS, GETS. Same idea, but this is with wired phone technology, right? So if you are working from home and or if you have are working from the office, but there are telecommunication issues within your region, you end up getting what's called a GETS card, which has your own unique um, uh, key code along with a identification number that you have to uh, uh, put in prior to make a phone call, but it gives you a higher priority there as well. And there's a third one which has a lot of requirements. It's called TPS. And that's the ability for your organization to get higher priority in the event that you have total destruction in your telecommunication lines and you need to get those lines up as quickly as possible. I think one of the requirements there is you have to do like a $1 billion, don't hold me to this, but like a billions of dollars in ACH and wire transactions in order to have the ability to actually even sign up for TPS. So again, Homeland Security, FBI, go to the CISA site, go to the CISA site because CISA does talk about WPS, GETS, and TPS. Just find out what's out there that is free of charge that you can actually implement within your organization. It gives you one step up on anybody else that hasn't been signed up for these.
Really insightful, Michael. These have been great jump off points for anyone looking for guidance and details to bulletproof their plans. So this has been really helpful. That'll do it for today.
Awesome.
Michael, any other thoughts that you want to leave us with?
No, again, I think, Test, test, test. That's really important within an organization because you want to make sure it's second nature to your team to
Mm.
be able to recover. And then I think, Gio, one of the things I know you'll end up posting this somewhere on social media. I think once it's posted, I'll actually add some additional links there so
Hmm.
that you can get to the Cease page and some of the other
Sure.
pages that I think are really critical for people that are just starting out and doing some disaster recovery, or they want to build their disaster recovery plan with more detail and more capability. And then also, always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to
Mhm.
have those conversations with not only banking and credit union individuals, but I think building a DR plan is important for every business vertical that's out there. So
Mhm.
I appreciate your time, and I appreciate having the conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate your time and your insights, Michael. Super helpful. We hope those of you that are listening or reading this, we hope you found it helpful and insightful. You can follow Summit Technology Group also on LinkedIn and subscribe for updates, new intel, and articles. And we will see you next time. Enjoy your day.